Coming up today on The Nice Guys on Business.
And that's really my goal for the book, is to help entrepreneurs live that good, or create the good life so they can live it. You have to first create it. And the good life's a mindset. And the good life's like this complete life where entrepreneurs can flourish regardless of circumstances, regardless of what might be going on around them. They can find personal flourishing. And so just discovering what lies between them and the good life is really what the book's all about.
Listen, strange women lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government. Supreme executive power derives from a mandate from the masses, not from some farcical aquatic ceremony or the nice guys on business. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
Okay, Nice Guy community, meet Aaron Marcum. Now, he's a master of applied positive psychology. Now, you might think, why is a guy with this much smarts coming to the Nice Guys? Well, we're going to find out today. He's learned the secrets of happiness from the father of positive psychology, Dr. Martin Seligman. Now, with 2 decades of business success, industry awards, and a knack for empowering entrepreneurs, Aaron's a sought-after speaker ready to help you thrive. Stay tuned for his new book, EntreThrive, The Entrepreneur's 8 Laws of Eliminating Unhealthy, and join us for a journey to unlock the secrets of success. And if you stay tuned a little bit later on, he's got a free gift for you. And I've already taken advantage of the free gift, and I've completely changed my outlook for heading into 2024. Aaron, welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here, Doug. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So I'm excited to have you here, and I'm looking forward to having some fun with you. But I do have to tell you, your first mistake was agreeing to be on the show after listening to not only the interview episodes, but our Friday episodes. Sometimes I get guests that say, "Hey, I really liked your interview episode. What the heck was that on Fridays? What was that? Was like a different show. How was it that you still said, 'Hey, I'm gonna do this' after you listened to the Friday episode?"
Oh, good question. You know, the questions, the interview that you've had with some of these other guests, and of course, just my desire to reach entrepreneurs and help them with their well-being, and just impressed, honestly, with your questions, right? And just kind of this kind of flow. It's not all set, right? You're just kind of going with it, right?
Totally not. No. I think the only thing that I have prepared is your introduction, and then all of the research that I've been able to do. Thanks, ChatGPT, for helping me a little bit with that. Man, oh man, talk about technology and the changes in technology. But
even in my field, for sure.
Yeah, but I was going to say that the more things change, the more they stay the same. While psychology and positive mental attitude and mindset and all of that, with technology changing as much as it has, that stuff has remained the same even with technology. So can we start there? Like, tell me about a little about this journey and why this is something that is so reached the forefront like today. Why is this so essential today to understand all of this positivity?
Well, COVID, post-COVID, right, is all the mental health and challenges that went on there. And a lot of entrepreneurs, like that's who with this EntreThrive, hence the title, my focus is to help entrepreneurs, because for me, the entrepreneur can impact so many people. So if I can impact the entrepreneur's well-being, then we impact so many others. And so many have been downtrodden, of course, after COVID and even before, but burnout was very common. But even more common, a lot of entrepreneurs gave up on their innovative ideas. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. I've built some multi-million-dollar businesses. I have been under my desk in a sleeping bag, stressed to the gore, trying to hit deadlines, and your personal life suffers in the process. We can be, as entrepreneurs, obsessive about, or passionately obsessive about what we're doing, and then our personal lives end up suffering in the process. And so this is more important than ever, honestly, to be able to impact the individual. I call them I don't call them the 10%er. That book, Drive, I can't remember the author,
That's all right.
Hawkins.
Keep rolling.
Yeah,
Keep rolling.
yeah.
I
Anyway,
haven't read it, but I know what you're talking
that's
about.
right. Well, the 10%ers, right? They're like the Navy SEALs, I think, is compared to that, is that we think differently as entrepreneurs. And so the path to flourishing and well-being is a little bit different for an entrepreneur, and the science would back that. Positive psychology is the science of well-being. And so I'm trying to combine the science with positive psychology. And now this type of science is needed more than ever. In fact, the last few years, even though positive psychology has been around for a while, it's really gained a lot of traction because of the need and the impact it can have.
So overzealous entrepreneurs, overscheduled, overwhelmed, completely dedicated to everything they do, ultra passionate to the point where they're sleeping in their office. If their office is in their home, they're sleeping under their desk in their home. They don't even take a chance to go into their bedroom because they're going to miss something online. I was
sleeping under my desk even when I wasn't at home. So.
A lot, and entrepreneurs will wear that as a badge of honor. And I think exactly. A lot of times the biggest challenge is that that's such an unhealthy way to be. No balance to the entrepreneur's life, especially the early stage entrepreneur. So talk to them for a second, because I know we have a lot in our audience. What do you want them to know about your message and what you have accomplished in your career that you could share as a life's lesson to them?
Yeah. And you're right. It is a badge of honor, which it shouldn't be. Early on, when I first started, in building a company, I started in the home health, home care space. And I was, when I say sleeping under my desk, I'd had my business for maybe a year. And I'd been asked to create a benchmarking study for the industry from the trade association. And I had a deadline. And I had something in place I had to meet. And this was really important to me. It was a brand builder for me to get my brand out there. We were a data analytics company for the home health space, home care space. And because of that deadline, I was pumped, 5-hour energy drinks, the first time I ever had those, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to stay awake. But I remember just being so burned out. It was just me. I didn't know really what I was doing. And, I was about to give up. I had this great idea, this study and what it was going to do, but I was so burned out and so obsessive about it as well, that my kids were suffering, my family was suffering, that I looked over and I saw these kind of guiding truths that I had created a few years before. It kind of grabbed hold of this, idea that kind of, I'm like, I got to keep going. I keep pushing. But I think about those little moments back then, especially early on, if I would have given up on that. I mean, that study is now considered kind of like the Bible for the home care space. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's in its 13th rendition of it, annual publication of it. And so if I would have given up way back then and given into my burnout, then where would that be, right? And so the point for early entrepreneurs is how can they, you get to those points where you just want to give up, and so many do, and they live this lie of what I call the lie of the either or. They feel like, well, I can either flourish professionally and put it all in my business, or I'm going to have to flourish personally. And usually it's the professional thing that especially early on, that consumes our time and energy.
Well, there's so few metrics in the personal world. It's the metrics in the personal world is, do I have loving relationships, and do I have an appreciative family, and do I have compassion and empathy? And those are such hard metrics to be able to measure. In the business world, it's, what's my bottom line look like? How many sales did I make last month? How many products do I have out there on the market? Yeah. It seems like it's such an easier thing to be able to measure. So people tend to lead in towards the things that are measurable as opposed to the esoteric. I love your comments on that stuff.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it's not just it's all those things plus the accolades, right? You get a lot more positive affirmation, right, of accomplishment. One of the Martin Seligman talks about this PERMA model in positive psychology, and it stands for positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment is the,
Mhm.
is the A in Burma. And that accomplishment for an entrepreneur is a driver, motivating. And so we become obsessive about that accomplishment. I was guilty of that. And sometimes I still have to check myself. I don't live these things perfectly either. We write a book sometimes to help ourselves as much as we do our audience. But I feel like I really have over the last 20 years lived them, improved upon them, and so forth. But man, it's like you have to check yourself to say, wait a second, but the other side of this, life is not about balance. Like there's no such thing as balance. I really have dropped that term a long time ago. But when you are at work, you're present at work. When you're at home, you're present at home. And that's the difference, right? Wherever we are, let's be there. And that's kind of, for an early entrepreneur, that's what I would tell them, is say, hey, wherever you are, be there. And then if you are, like if you're there at work, I think you're better with your time, your energy, you get more done. So you can be present, with your family and your connections.
Well, I want to add a yes end to that from the world of improv. The yes end is wherever you are, be there and be positive about where you are. Be happy with where you are, knowing that you are exactly where you need to be in order to get to the next stage. So many times people they kind of want to advance this thing. They want to social media world it so that I feel like I'm already experiencing all the positive stuff. And I think that you can experience a lot of the positivity in your brain well before you actually get there. As a matter of fact, law of attraction, you will absolutely get there if you believe that you are there, but you gotta love where you are too. If you're always trying to get to the next place or always hoping your next place is where you are right now, you're going to miss where you are. And that's a challenge. I want to ask you a question just about the only thing that's certain in life is uncertainty, especially as an entrepreneur. And so I'd love to get your comments on how can you share with an entrepreneur to be in an environment where they're comfortable and that they're feeling like they're flourishing when they are dealing with all of this uncertainty around them. How do you deal with that? How do you advise anybody about that?
Yeah. This is a tremendous question. So with what I write about in the book are these 8 laws, right? The first law is this kind of clarity. And I believe that's where it starts. We've got to get clear on, we've heard this, like this has been repeated, clear on your why, understand your purpose. But even more than that, I think it's about you as an entrepreneur. Like, yeah, you need to have your core values in your business. What about your guiding truths? Things that are kind of your compass as you go forward so that you can have that kind of staying power. And then one of the other laws, and I think connections, relationships, like getting the right support people around you is pretty critical. But the law of EntreGrit, it's about getting, your staying power, your persistence really has to come down with your grittiness. And so when we're looking at like, how can I stick with this, or how can I push through any, some of these challenges, because the uncertainties, as you're talking about, is there's 5 phases to our grit when it comes to an entrepreneur, and we have to decide where we're at in those 5 phases. And Grit by Angela Duckworth, she talks about a couple of these, but the first one is curiosity, right? That's when we become an entrepreneur, when we want to become an entrepreneur, it starts with that. Like we're curious about something, we have an idea. And then the next phase, I'll go through these fairly quickly, is interest. Like interest is we're starting to build knowledge, we're starting to do research and kind of deepening that a little bit. And then once we're doing that, we usually launch from there a lot of times. Like entrepreneurs will launch and they go into practice. They're practicing their entrepreneurship or this new venture, and they're in the early stages. This is the aspiring entrepreneur right there. And then if we practice enough, we can and we really start loving what we're doing and the impact that we're having, then it can turn into a passion. And then that passion is where most entrepreneurs stop. And that's great. A passion can take you fairly far through all the uncertainties of entrepreneurship. But then there's a next level, there's a 5th level, and it's a calling. some people call it purpose. I like the word calling, because when you feel called to something, you feel like the impact you can have is pretty important to all those that you're serving as an entrepreneur. And for me, entrepreneurship is you're serving others, you're making an impact, and you're solving problems in people's lives, right? And so that calling, once you get to that point, your grittiness it's kind of like pretty solid. And so those uncertainties, you can handle all those uncertainties the further you get along that kind of.
Well, it totally makes sense. And for those of you in our Nice Guy community, if you didn't follow the 5: curiosity, interest, launch, practice, passion, and then calling, where I find that I'm really interested in that curiosity stage. I'm really moving forward. It's like, hey, I have a great idea. I have a garage. Let's put on a show. That's like the first thing that I think. And then like I start doing some research and I get really interested in it, and then enough to want to launch and practice actually doing what I'm doing. And sometimes it becomes a passion, but sometimes it becomes just a money pool for me. And a horrible goal to have is more. More is not is not a good goal. You kind of have to put some guidelines around what your goal is. And when you launch and you practice doing what you do, and it becomes a passion of yours rather than just a money grab for you, you have a much easier conversion of a passion to a calling than a money grab to a calling. Because when you're just following the money, as soon as the money stops, you got to start over again. You got to go back to that curiosity stage and find something new. How have you found that when you're teaching and talking to other people about these 5 stages that you go through, where is the one that most people get stuck? Is there a stuck spot?
Yeah, there's really 2. I mean, you get stuck in almost between each one, but between the interest and the practice launch phase, right, is that we think that we have to have our passion before we actually get into that practice stage. And so we try to skip that. We're like, okay, before I really launch, I've got to have that deep, abiding passion. Well, sometimes the practice is necessary for us to actually gain the passion. Like we have this myth out there that passion just kind of falls on us, right? That we're just going to discover it through almost doing nothing. Right? That it's just,
it just happens. Frankly, it just comes to you.
Yeah, it just happens. I think that our culture has kind of moved us in that direction, and it just isn't true in the sense of grittiness. Like if we really want staying power and true passion, we can fake passion, and I think some people do because they feel stuck. Like say I'm passionate about something, but if they're truly honest with themselves, they're still in the practice, or maybe between the interest and the practice phase. The hardest one is the practice to the passion phase, like you were talking about, is that something because we get stuck in that practice, and we keep pushing it, working those late hours. And to me, that's where the burnout really happens, is that definitely. We want to keep getting to that passion. We keep hitting it on the, getting close, but we're just never quite there. And sometimes giving up or quitting is the best thing we should do and start something new. Like it's not maybe what we're supposed to be doing.
Is there generally, and I know this will vary depending on what type of commitment somebody is getting into or the size of the project that's about to happen, but is there a timeline that works for getting you from curiosity to interest, from interest into practice and launching, and from practice launch to passion and into calling? I know I hate to give you like it's as easy as the timeline of the earth. Here it is. It's a 5 billion year thing. But how long does it take to get into these stages so people can kind of start to gauge? I've been doing this for now 6 years, and I'm still trying to find what I'm passionate about when it comes to this.
I would say 6 years is definitely too long to be in the process.
I agree with you. I agree.
But, I would say most entrepreneurs were what we call high quick starts, right? We jump pretty quick. So from the curiosity to the interest, squirrel. Curiosity, interest is pretty darn quick. I mean, 3 months possibly, right? I mean, again, it just depends, right? But if I were to say, yeah, that's the quickest. The first two is like from curiosity, when you're really starting to do some research, getting that interest phase. Practice, though, that's the phase that sometimes takes longer for you to really kind of get into the groove. For me, when I was doing data analytics, to be honest with you, it was certainly not a passion. My passion was home care. So I had a good start, right? But it was so different. And it wasn't in that practice phase. I was in there for almost a year before I really felt like I went into the passion, because I had to understand so many things that I didn't understand before that I had to learn. And then when I understand the impact that they could have, my passion was not necessarily, I mean, it was about the numbers,
Yep.
but it was about the impact the numbers could have on an industry that desperately needed it, like really needed it. And I could see, and I was starting to see the impact of my practice.
Yeah, when you can start to see the impact, I think that your passion is not far behind. When you see the work
Amen.
out there in the world and the good that you are doing, I think that can easily, again, putting money aside for a moment, but just looking at the impact itself on your work in the world, even if it's podcast production, even if it's building cars, even if it's, being a bar mitzvah MC, whatever it is that you like to do. It doesn't have to be a money result. It could be an impact result. Good. I like this. I like this.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And then, go ahead.
Go. No, you go, because I was going to take you to the next step, but it sounds like you're going to get there.
Well, yeah. And then the passion of the calling is another one that I think it doesn't have to be a big jump or a big deal in that sense. But it goes back to the impact. Like, I think that really is the difference between passion. Like you can get to passion without maybe that impact that you've seen or experienced. Maybe it's just something you personally just love to do. For me, I love to I do cycling. I do long endurance cycling, and I would say I'm passionate, and the impact on others, it's mostly an impact on me, frankly. Right. But when that calling, so I wouldn't call that necessarily a calling. I'm not in the Tour de France or anything like that, making that kind of impact, but that's the next phase, is like impact. That, like, what's the difference is this making in the world? And what's my contribution to it? And then I think that really solidifies that calling when you're kind of being pushed towards it. And by that time, you're also considered an expert in that area. You practice so much, and you can have a greater impact when you really know what you're talking about.
You've put in your 10,000 hours, and you're ready to share
Yes.
with the world, continue to share with the world, to make a greater impact. I think your timing is perfect on this, Aaron. I think that as we head into the end of 2023 and as we're getting into 2024, two things I want to really highly encourage those in our listening audience to do. One, get a copy of Aaron's book. We'll make sure we put a link in the show notes how you can get EntreThrive, The Entrepreneur's 8 Laws for Eliminating Unhealthy. And I think that will help you get one level closer to success, or unlock maybe even some of those secrets that you need in order to get closer to success. The other thing that I want to share is this very impactful worksheet that Aaron and this team have put together. And I just, when I get a guest that comes on the show, I like to opt into the things that they offer, because I want to see what it's all about. If they have a book, I want to at least try to get through some of the pages so I can see what it's all about. It was such an easy ask. Hey, do this worksheet. Look at the worksheet. I looked at the instructions on the worksheet, and I'm like, I want to use this as my guide for getting into 2024. You have things like plan your breakaway worksheet in this EntreClarity guide. So maybe if you just spend just a moment before we wrap up, talk to my community about what this EntreClarity guide is, and then what the worksheet is. And so it can really help shape a lot of good stuff going on. And your timing, like I said, is perfect, Aaron.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, So there's two components to that EntreClarity guide. The first component's the guiding truths. I mentioned that I've had my guiding truths for years, and that's where it starts. And we have several questions you can ask yourself as far as your guiding truths, right? And then and then to get to those guiding truths. And we're actually building an AI component to that over the next few months that I'm pretty excited about.
Nice.
But hopefully, we're hoping to have it actually by book launch. When it's official, and
even as it stands on its own, even non AI, it's still non-tech. It's still a great little worksheet or a guide. Tool. Okay, go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, and so once you have those, then the next phase is like, what are your big breakaways? And I get that term from the Tour de France. I mentioned cycling, right? Is that a breakaway is when someone's breaking away from the pack, and usually they do it with a team. So our best breakaways are with our favorite people, right? And the people that can help us break away. And so you take those guiding truths and you attach it to a breakaway and say, okay, the guiding truth could be like the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, if you're familiar with that, or the actual winning the entire tour would be like, that's what I want to be true. That's the thing I want. The breakaway allows you to get there. It's the momentum. It's that thing. Like for me, that was that benchmarking study I did for my industry was my breakaway. And so in that worksheet, in that guide, you identify what the breakaway is, what the headwinds. So we use kind of these terms that deal with the breakaway, the milestone or the mile markers, that you need to be aware of. And the last thing is actually my favorite, is the catalytic mechanism, which is a Jim Collins term, from good to great. It's not in his book, actually an article that he wrote before that. Catalytic mechanism is something we put in place to almost ensure that we accomplish this breakaway. Like if I wanted to go on a vacation with my family and I was worried about something getting in the way of that, my catalytic mechanism might be non-refundable Airbnb, right?
Burn the boat.
Yeah, burn the boat. Exactly. Something that forces me to make sure this happens. For me in cycling, if I wanted to win a race, I might, rather than register as a rider, I might register as a racer, and my training would look different. I mean, there's a bunch of different examples that you could look at as far as the catalytic mechanism, but it just helps you kind of get on your thinking about what is it that I want? What do I need to break away from? Sometimes we're breaking away from our former selves into a new kind of future, reframing the past, right, to make sure that we're moving forward into a more positive future. And the breakaway kind of helps you structure that. So guiding truths, breakaway, it's a powerful tool for your listeners to download.
Yeah, and we'll make sure we put a link in the show notes for this as well. But, just so you know, it involves a lot of introspection and a lot of self-awareness, and come to the table ready to play this game. It's not a long form to fill out. It's basically 2 pages. One is answering questions and the other is filling in the blanks based upon, the different categories that he had just gone through. I love the headwinds, because it's basically, what are the obstacles that are standing in your way to make this happen. For those in our Nice Guy community, it's EntreThrive.com/nice guys. Again, we'll put a link in the show notes. It's EntreThrive.com/nice guys. Don't worry about the spelling. Just head over to the show notes. Don't ask me how to spell it, because I'm not going to sit here and spell it for you so that you can just forget what I've just told you. So EntreThrive.com/nice guys is the way to get to that form. Aaron, what am I missing? What should I be asking you that I'm not? What have the good podcast hosts asked you that I've forgotten to ask you? I wrote down all these things that I wanted to talk to you about, and of course, I haven't talked about any of them because we got off on a great conversation.
I love it. These are my favorite. When we just can kind of let it flow and so forth. But I think for me, I want to help entrepreneurs find both the truth and, meaning they don't need to live the lie of the either or. They can do both personal and professional flourishing. And my book is really focused on the personal side. Steeped in, I think that one point I just need to make is that it's a little different than a typical self-help type deal where, and not to knock that, I love a lot of those books, but this has a lot of science, but not boring. Like I really simplify it. A lot of stories, a lot of personal stories, because I'm an entrepreneur and a positive psychologist, so I'm marrying the two. And excited about, those who read it to hopefully will resonate and help them kind of create that clarity on leading them to the good life. And that's one thing we really haven't talked about, is that Aristotle talked about the good life. And that's really my goal for the book, is to help entrepreneurs live that good, or create the good life so they can live it. You have to first create it. And the good life's a mindset. And the good life's like this complete life where entrepreneurs can flourish regardless of circumstances, regardless of what might be going on around them. They can find personal flourishing. And so just discovering what lies between them and the good life is really what the book's all about.
And when does the book come out? Does it come out in January of 2024?
Yes, January 22nd.
Okay, so January 22nd, if you're listening to this before then and you're going over to Amazon or to Aaron's website, just know that it will be released and available to you very soon. In the meantime, the best thing for you to do is go to the website and get that guide. EntreThrive.com/nice guys will get you to the form. Aaron, Thank you so much.
You can pre-order the Kindle, actually.
Very cool. Even now, can you do that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool.
Pre-order it now. It won't be available till then, but yeah.
All right, so that's your marching orders. Head over to Amazon, see if you can get it, or head over to the Kindle spot and get Aaron's book, or go over to EntreThrive.com/nice guys if you want to get the guide for you right now. Thank you so much, Aaron. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and your message on our show today. Excited to have you here.
Been fun. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice or the power of thriving in an uncertain world that we live in today. Special thanks to Aaron Marcum. All of his information, including access to his book and to his guide, will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Seriously, it'll only hurt for a minute. And don't worry, I'll be fine.